On the ground last night, there were 2 missile attacks, and they were probably these loitering munitions that had come from Iran, the kamikaze drones, and they were in the cities of Zaporizhzhia and Nikopol that we can see on the map here. But going to the wider map and having a look across Ukraine as to what's happening, the Russians are having some success in the centre bit, attacking into the small town of Bakhmut that we can see there, but they're not making huge amounts of progress. In the north, just northeast of Izium, the Ukrainians are having some real success, but I think where things are beginning to happen is in Kherson down in the south. And that, because it's on the flanks of what the Russians are doing in Bakhmut, is putting them under some very real pressure.
OK, now let's talk about these reservists. Russia's saying the enrolment's coming to an end. How successful has it been? How many have been called up so far?
Yes, well, Vladimir Putin put 300,000 as the number that's in there. We've seen lots of reports of the reservists coming out, and these are them trying to get onto the trains. The difference between this picture and the reality is that most of them seem to be having to buy their own equipment. Right. And body armour, which is a very basic, is the prices online have gone through the roof, apparently. And we're also coming into winter months. It's unlikely that a lot of these troops are going to have the right winter gear to be able to survive. So they're being put into the front line. 260-odd thousand have been recruited already. Putin says he's going to ease that off. 14,000 I've read have already gone into the front line in the combat areas. But if they're not being properly equipped and not being properly trained, they're not going to have a great effect on the ground.
Right, yeah, and extraordinary contrast with the pictures of young men trying to flee as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
So French President Macron has been speaking about the situation in the last few days. What has he been saying about Putin?
Yeah, well, he's really been responding to what Putin's been saying. And as we heard from Lukashenko earlier, he's saying Putin's most likely to go nuclear if he's cornered. Vladimir Putin has once again rattled the nuclear cage with his threats. But unusually here, President Macron has come out and said that France would not respond with a nuclear weapon if one was used inside Ukraine. Now, that has broken the protocol that there is, which is a protocol of strategic ambiguity. So that the nuclear powers don't actually say what they will do and what they won't do. They don't put that hard line in the sand, so that the threat always remains, and that keeps that mutually assured destruction peace that's actually kept the peace for so many years so far. So we're now down to, instead of there being 3 nuclear powers potentially threatening Russia, there's only 2, the United States and the United Kingdom.
Right.
But as ever, the UK and US will not draw those lines. But I think the UK is probably a little bit focused on other things at the moment.
Yeah, as we've been discussing earlier in the programme. OK, well, how about, let's talk about the United Kingdom's support for Ukraine. The head of the armed forces has been speaking as well?
He has, and he put a very clear statement out yesterday. And I think this is probably because of the political turmoil that we've got. Remember, in government, we've got the status quo with the Secretary of State for Defence, but Chief of the Defence Staff, Admiral Radakin, was praising the Ukrainians for what they have achieved and the defence they put in. And he's also sort of reiterating what the international community is doing, when you look at it, in keeping international resolve, in supporting Ukraine, sending a clear message to Vladimir Putin, a clear message to Lukashenko that Belarusians stay out of it, because the international community is together as one, no matter what's going on domestically in any particular country.